for joining and giving a very valuable association. Prabhuji, we'll start first with the 12th chapter, Prabhuji. Is that fine? It will take just for 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Mataji, if you have, you can start reading, Mataji. In the meantime, okay, Mataji will share the screen. Yeah.
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna, chapter 12,
Hare Krishna.
devotional service.
1 second, Mataji, 1 second. Hare Krishna, Jayananda, Gauranga, Prabhuji. As a part of Kartika Vrata, we are doing every day 12 chapter recitation. Devotees are reciting. So first they will recite 12 chapter and then we'll start the class. Okay. I will start sharing that 12 chapter. So Mataji, please start, Mataji.
Okay. Arjun Uvacha Evam Satatayukta ye bhaktyastvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vishya Mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayope taste te me yukta tamamataha. Yetvaksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam chakkush अचिंत्यम च कुटस्थम अचलम ध्रुवम सन्नियम्येन्द्रिय ग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रतः क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिः दुःखं देहवद्भिरवाप्यते ये तो सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्परः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषाम् अहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मनाद्यस्त्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो माम् इच्छास्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यासे अपि असमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थम् अपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिम् अवाप्स्यसि अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मध्यगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यथात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञान अभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यायं ज्ञानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् त्यागश्चन्तेरनन्तरम् अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनोबुद्धिर्यो भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षं योगैर्मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्ष सुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारंभ परित्यागी यो भक्त्या स मे प्रियः यो न यष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न कांक्षति शुभाशुभ परित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समशस्त्रौ न च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समसंग विवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिर्भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः Yeto dharmamritam edam yathoktam paripasate shraddhana matparama bhakta testiva me priyaha. Hare Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for reciting so beautifully. So I welcome each and everyone once again for mid-morning Japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your patience and time and valuable time. So you can please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. You're able to hear me well?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Vanchakalpaturbhyascha kripasindubhya cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I offer my humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas assembled in this call. So, we are starting Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chapter 12, titled Devotee. I'm hoping you're all able to see the screen as well. So,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So, this chapter starts with a number of qualities that the devotee possesses. And the first quality that is elaborated is called tolerance. So what is the definition of tolerance? Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. So there are a few key words here. One is called as practiced. So that means that one has to practice tolerance as part of regulative principles of devotional service. So it is not something that can just be achieved spontaneously, but one needs practice. Some may need years of practice to achieve this tolerance. And what exactly do one have to tolerate? One is insult and one is dishonor from others. So people can speak insultingly, people can dishonor us, people may not respect us. In all the situations, one has to practice tolerance. So every day we may have different incidents that happen in our life continuously, being in a material realm. And so one practices how to remain tolerant in different situations. So I'm going to start with just some quotes from Prabhupada about tolerance, and then we will see what does the scriptures say about tolerance. So quotes from Prabhupada. This is an evening conversation in Puri on January 25, 1977. So Prabhupada says that Krishna never said, I have made some magic and that you will have no failure. So all there is that you just try to tolerate. That is all. So that means that there is no magical solution to any problems in the material world. What we will learn here in the process in Krishna consciousness is how to learn to tolerate the difficult situations in life. So this is another letter that Prabhupada has written, dated Los Angeles, January 9th, 1970. It's dated to my Guru Maharaj here, Jayapataka Swami, Guru Maharaj, and where in that letter it states here, remember this principle always and follow the footsteps of Jayapataka. He is a very good example. And even there is some misunderstanding, try to tolerate and don't be agitated. So there are plenty of opportunities for us to have misunderstanding, because these misunderstandings may not even be that you have caused it. It happens on its own. It is by nature of this material world, these misunderstandings and unwanted situations happen unasked for. You don't have to ask for it. Like seasons of spring and winter, these unwanted situations arise on its own. And one may even think that we have caused it, but that is but it is bound to happen, whether even if you think that you yourself are causal. It is bound to happen anyway. So in this way, difficult situations are going to come. People are going to talk in a way that we may not like. There may be misunderstanding. All these things are bound to happen. And so the question is, how do you react to all these kinds of circumstances? And what Krishna consciousness teaches you, that's what Prabhupada says here. It's not that there is a magical thing that has been created. You will learn to tolerate difficult situations in life, whether it is small difficulty or big difficulty, but learning to tolerate. So this is the first quality that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually saying. In fact, it is there even in the Shikshashtakam itself, Pranadapi Sunichena Tharorapi Sahishnana. So very tolerant as a tree. So this is a further definition by tolerance. Now we're going to go to scriptures. We just saw what Prabhupada said about tolerance. So we're just going to read, I'm going to read about 3 verses and analyze these verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, about tolerance. So the first verse I've taken here is in the 11th canto. This is in 19th chapter, 36 to 39. All these are related to Uddhava and Krishna. And so here, there's a definition for tolerance. And that is, tolerance means to patiently endure unhappiness, such as that provoked by the insults and negligence of others. So there are 2 situations by which one has to be tolerant. And what are those 2 situations? One is insult. So people can talk in an insulting way, or you perceive them to be insulting. Okay, you perceive them to be insulting. And the second thing is people neglect you. So we are in a family, we are in job, we are in personal social life, anywhere people can just suddenly start to neglect you. So, and all these things are just bound to happen. So whether they neglect you or whether they insult you, in both these situations are firm grounds to create an unhappiness. But when one patiently endures this unhappiness, that is called as tolerance. So let's say that in a work life, if your boss, co-workers, colleagues, anybody, so if they say something which is insulting, or suddenly in a meeting, maybe somebody just neglects you, and then so you're like non-existent in the meeting. So, and that situation is a firm ground for creation of unhappiness. But then if you patiently endure it, that is called tolerance. What is the opposite of not doing that? The opposite of not doing that is just voicing out and saying, okay, I'm unhappy and I want this situation to be rectified. I'm unhappy and I want the situation to be rectified. That is means that it's gone. The tolerance there is gone. There is no tolerance there. That means you are patiently, because you're not in that situation, one is not ready to endure the unhappiness. The unhappiness has come and one is not ready to endure it. So then that person feels, how can they be treated that way? So how can someone treat me that way? Because why are they feeling that? Because the false ego comes into picture. The false ego comes into picture, and then they are not ready to tolerate the situation. Then it's like, how can I be treated this way? Okay, that means like you have an artificial reputation for yourself, and then you feel like, how can somebody treat me this way? So the devotees of the Lord, this is a very famous verse which is repeatedly cited in so many lectures I've seen. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, verse 48, very famous verse on tolerance. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing, okay, so forbearing that even though they are defamed, okay, the first situation here is you're defamed, okay. People say bad things about you. They come up with all kinds of accusations about you, and you're defamed. Okay, in the eyes of public, you're defamed. Number 2, you're cheated. Okay, you feel cheated. Somebody has acted in a malicious way, and you feel cheated. You're cursed. Okay, so somebody curses you for a difficult situation in life. Disturbed. Okay, many things in life keep disturbing us. The next one is neglected. Okay, so this one is there in the previous definition as well. In the Uddhava Gita, so neglected. Okay, and more than insult, neglect happens quite frequently in life. Okay, people neglect you or even killed. Okay, that means like, so one could wonder, so if they're already killed, what does it even mean? That means like, that is the kind of, you feel like as though you've been killed. Okay, so even in that situation, and the soul is perpetual for that matter, you know. So like we can see that from the lifetimes of Amba. In 3 lifetimes, you know, after being she went from one lifetime to next lifetime and so on, and then she had to be born as Shikandi and so on, and to have revenge. Okay, so so that is not tolerance. Okay, so even one is killed, and even in all these situations, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Okay, they are never inclined, so they are so tolerant that even in the worst of the situation, or even when they have been led to being killed, I gave you an example of Amba, where she was really led to being killed in order to get to the next lifetime, but a devotee is never inclined to avenge themselves. In all these situations, they don't feel like, okay, the person who is inflicting me all these miseries in life, okay, so how can they get a situation which might help them realize what they have done to me? Okay, or so they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So what are these situations? One is they're defamed, one is they're cheated, one they're cursed, they're disturbed, neglected, or even killed. In all these situations, they're tolerant and they are never inclined to avenge themselves. That is the hallmark quality of a Vaishnava devotee. A Vaishnava devotee does not avenge anyone or think bad for anybody in any circumstance. Let's see another definition. Again, this is Uddhava Gita 11.22.61. The conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong. Okay, so we're very conditioned. Okay, so very conditioned to different situations. And therefore, it is very difficult for even a learned man to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. So even for learned men, okay, when they might be, so why is it said learned men here? Because education is meant to give good qualities to people. So by getting good qualities through a good education, but even that education that is made people learned, even they find it very difficult to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Okay, people commit offenses all the time and that is because of ignorance. Okay, because of ignorance, they are in a mode of avidya, so they constantly keep creating offenses, and even for them, it's very hard to tolerate. And then, so what happens? So it is said here, Uddhava says, only your devotees, okay, Krishna, your devotees who are fixed in your loving service, okay, the pure devotees who are fixed in the loving service of Krishna and who have achieved peace, okay, so they are always peace, they are not disturbed by residing at your lotus feet, okay, but because they are constantly thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna, they want to visit the temples and look at the lotus feet of Krishna, are able to tolerate such offenses. They're able to tolerate their offenses because they are firmly fixed. They are firmly fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna. So if you read the Bhagavatam from beginning to end, there is only one thing that is fixed in the Bhagavatam. And what is that? And that is being fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna. So being fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna is the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So how can we achieve this tolerance? The first thing that we need to achieve this tolerance is an unflinching faith in Krishna. Then we can tolerate anything. An unflinching faith in Krishna is a prerequisite for, to give us the ability to tolerate anything. So in material life, so there are two things. Okay, so in material life, people generally see tolerance as a weakness as well. So people who are always tolerant, sometimes they feel the material world right now has made them feel like they are a loser, they are defeated. Oh, why should I put up with this kind of a situation? Why should I put up with anything? So nobody wants to put up with anything. So then they feel a loser, they feel defeated, and they feel themselves as weak and incapable of even defending themselves. They feel so incapable of even defending themselves that they have to fight for their situation, and that is how the current material world is. But the spiritual life is opposite to that. And how is it opposite? Because in material life, everyone is conditioned by mundane visions. Everyone is conditioned by mundane visions. That means, like, why should we tolerate? Even at slight provocation, they're ready to break up. They're ready to break up and then move away, and then so that they can have their happiness. The goal is they want to be materially happy. And so why tolerate a situation, right? But in spiritual life, it's the opposite, where this tolerance is glorious. It's appreciated, and Krishna is happy with that kind of tolerance. So a perfect place to learn to get tolerant is married life. So in married life, there is plenty of provocations, plenty of problems. It's unasked for. Things will keep coming, and especially in this day and life. And so Bhagavatam is full of stories of married people, married devotees, and how they have tolerated problems. What is Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam is full of episodes of devotees tolerating problems. They've tolerated problems because their faith is firmly fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna. So, and therefore, they have completely detached themselves from the material situation. If somebody shouts at you, fine. If somebody is neglectful at you, fine. Because they are unaware of those kind of material situations. They are unaware of those material situations. Those material situations are happening. So maybe people around them who are conditioned can say, oh, how is this person able to listen to all those things? But that person is in spiritual bliss because they are not aware of all those kind of material, different things that people have provoked them. So then even at the slightest problem, whether if it is an employment, then they feel, okay, oh, there's some problem. Okay, let's either quit or move ourselves or somebody else from that situation, and so on. So slightest problem, provocation, that's enough. And so they leave jobs, and then family life, same thing. There is plenty of divorces, plenty of things, and all these things happening because of the slightest problem. One is provoked, then they're not able to tolerate it, and then they move on. So then we can start this process of tolerating. And how this process of tolerating happens, there are two ways to do that. One way to do that is, as mentioned in the definition in the Bhagavatam, it's by practicing. But that practicing can be a practicing false tolerance or practicing true tolerance. What is practicing false tolerance? Practicing false tolerance means enduring it materially. Okay. So in that process, what happens is all the negative emotions will rise. So you're being very tolerant. Somebody has been shouting at you. Somebody has been neglectful to you. Somebody has been like this with you for a long time. And then you're being tolerant. You're not saying anything. Okay. And then you're thinking yourself to be spiritually uplifted. You're not saying anything. And all the negative emotions rise inside. And then, but one day, because all those negative emotions have risen, why have they risen? Because one has not subdued their false ego. One has not subdued their false ego. One day it will burst. One day it will burst, and all that so-called tolerance that was there for all those months, everything will burst, and then the situation will be even worse than what it was before. But then there is something called true tolerance. And what is a true tolerance? The true tolerance comes when one has firm faith in Krishna and not in our ability to tolerate. It is not our ability to tolerate that matters, but what matters is that the firm faith in Krishna, that matters. Okay, so when one faces those kinds of difficult situations in life, then one loses hope. Okay, one loses hope, and then, so what do we do when we lose hope, when we face difficult situations? People have neglected us, people have spoken insulting to us, and we are trying to be tolerant. So how can we get spiritually tolerant? Okay, so at this time, is there any hope? Okay, for difficult situations in life, miseries, is there any hope? So materially speaking, actually there is no hope, because there is waves of dissatisfaction. Okay, the waves of dissatisfaction in the material world. So one becomes anxious, one becomes troubled, and becomes miserable, and ultimately feel defeated, because in all their attempts they have tried to get the happiness, but they have not seen the hope. And one continuously hopes, because this is a word that is used by Rupa Goswami, Asha Bandha. That means like one is conditioned to hope. Okay, so it's a question of what to hope for. Okay, are you going to hope for something that is material, or are you going to hope for something that lasts? Okay, hoping for something material, okay, something that is destined to die. Okay, something that is destined to die, it will be hopeless. So that means like if you want to solve a material problem, you are still going to be ultimately defeated, because all those material problems, they are destined to die. Okay, all those material situations, they're destined to die. So what we could do here is how to develop this tolerance is to gain spiritual hope. And that means the basic thing is to convert material hope to spiritual hope. And how to do the spiritual hope, how to develop this tolerance, okay, is called a spiritual hope. Tolerance comes by developing this spiritual hope to be fully dependent on Krishna. So to be fully dependent on Krishna, that Krishna can protect us in all circumstances, any circumstance which we may think, how can I even escape from this particular situation? Any circumstance, Krishna can protect us. So that means you convert the material hope to spiritual hope. Okay, and the first step in that is called association of sadhus. So association of devotees can lead us towards that spiritual hope. And what is its spiritual hope? Is accepting Krishna's will. We may not be able to know whether this is good for us or that is good for us. Whatever is the circumstance you're facing right now, that is Krishna's will. So there is no point trying to change that particular situation, because that is the best situation that you can ever be. Let's say that you are in a workplace which is pretty bad for you, or your family life which you think is pretty bad for you. In fact, that is the best situation that you can ever hope for, because Krishna has given you that situation. That is the best situation and if you think that way, that is called accepting Krishna's will. Then there is hope. And even if Krishna can change the situation on his own, if he thinks that situation is needed. As soon as you've learned your lesson for that, a new situation can come for learning the next lesson. So that means hope in Krishna is called a spiritual hope, and that is tolerance. So what is tolerance? Is accepting Krishna's will. Accepting Krishna's will, so that one's intelligence and is firmly fixed in the lotus feet of Krishna. There is nothing that one needs to focus other than the lotus feet of Krishna. The lotus feet of Krishna is for. Let's move on. So we just said association of devotees.
Hare Krishna, it's
So association of devotees is next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, your voice is breaking.
You're able.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
We lost.
Yeah, he'll join back again.
You're able to hear me?
Now we can hear you, Prabhu.
Okay. So was just the last few words?
Yeah,
where-
just the last few words. That's
Okay,
it.
thanks. Okay. So the next subject matter of this topic and of this chapter is of Caitanya. So this is the conversation. Okay.
Again, it's
Prabhu-
happening.
Prabhuji, it's again breaking. Hare Krishna.
You're able to hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Let's try again. I connected to a different network. Let's try again. Okay, so assume there is an opportunity here for tolerance because of the network issues. Let's see. And so this is a subject matter in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a verse spoken, okay, it's a conversation with the 9 Yogendras, the Nava Yogendras. So a moment of association with holy men is the most valuable thing in life. For that moment opens the path of advancement and spiritual life. So by some luck or past activities, Krishna's mercy, by some way, if we can have a moment's association with that exalted Vaishnava, then that will open the path for spiritual advancement. So if we see the Srimad Bhagavatam, pretty much most of the devotees most of them have been formed, actually became devotees because of Narada Muni. So that is the most valuable thing in life. There is nothing more valuable than that moment. One is fortunate, okay? One is fortunate not because of wealth or a good living, big house, all these things is not actually fortunate. But if one is fortunate, if they can have the moment of association with that Vaishnava devotee who can transform one's life and give and open the doors for the spiritual life. So why is this so important? There is this verse in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3.25.25. And I think this is by association with the holy persons and discussing the transcendental subject matters with them, one becomes convinced of the value of spiritual life. So when you discuss the subjects with them, so then one is convinced, then you form a firm foundation of spiritual life, and then you progress. So what is the result of that association with a Mahajana, a great soul? So if one gets this opportunity to serve a great soul, a Mahatma, okay, his path to liberation is open. So the liberation path is open. So this is one prayojana, one goal coming out of this. The second one is, this is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2. The path of advancement of spiritual life opens for anyone who comes in contact with such holy men. So what opens? One is liberation, and the second is the path, the spiritual path. Okay, and by following the path of these Mahajana, one is sure to develop Krishna consciousness in full devotional service. So the path, the devotional service path, okay, will open up, and liberation will also open up. Okay, so two things will open up automatically. One is liberation from material existence, and the second one is Krishna consciousness. The devotional life, the spiritual path will open up. Okay, so that is the second thing that will open up. So a corollary to this is this chapter, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, also says that one should also avoid association with unholy men, because that will pull you down. Okay, so that will pull you down. One will try to pull up, the other will try to pull you down. Okay, association with unholy men, that will pull you down. Okay, so this is the next thing with this chapter. So let's move on. So there are this chapter, the next subject matter of this chapter in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya is the 6 qualities of a surrendered devotee. We have frequently encountered this subject. Actually, we might have heard this many times. It's frequently said, just surrender to Krishna. But then people find it very hard to understand what exactly does it even mean by saying how to surrender to Krishna. Okay, how to surrender. So there are 6 tenets here. The first tenet is that one should accept everything favorable for the discharge of one's duties and devotional service. Okay, so accepting anything, let's say that waking up early in the morning and chanting, okay, so if that is favorable to discharge of one's duties, do it. Okay, being tolerant, is that favorable to Krishna's, in Krishna's service, in devotional service? Yes, do it. Okay, let's say that talking less and not talking all mundane things, is that favorable to Krishna's in devotional service? Yes, do it. The second one is one should give up everything that is unfavorable for the discharge of devotional service. Okay, constant chatting of mundane nonsense, is that favorable for devotional service? No. Then stop talking all those mundane things. Okay, or slowly bring it down. Okay, now just any other unfavorable activity. Okay, anything that you can, every activity you can make your own distinction. Is this favorable? Is this unfavorable? Favorable, slowly try to increase it. Unfavorable, slowly try to get it down. So bring one up, bring one down. Okay, it may not be possible to do everything immediately, but the sooner we do, the better. The third one is one should be convinced that only Krishna can protect him and should have full faith that the Lord will give that protection. So this means that we are not very confident of our own abilities. Okay, a Krishna conscious person is not a very confident person based on their own abilities. They are very confident because they have firm faith that Krishna will protect. That situation that has been given to that person is because of Krishna's mercy, and therefore Krishna, since Krishna can protect, they are so, and having this firm conviction is the third facet of a surrendered devotee. A fourth facet of a surrendered devotee is a devotee should always accept Krishna as his maintainer. Not themselves, not their husband, not their wife, not their father, mother, child. They are not the true maintainers. The true maintainer is Krishna. Krishna is the maintainer, and Krishna has kept us in a certain situation, and that is what the devotee accepts Krishna as a maintainer. Then number 5, a devotee is always conscious that he is not independent in fulfilling his desires. Unless Krishna fulfills them, they cannot be fulfilled. So without Krishna's help, none of the desires of the individual soul can actually be fulfilled. And that is the attitude of the desire. So for somebody else, they might perceive us to be, this person, he just acts independently. But others cannot know what the basis on which we act. The basis on which we act, only that person will know. And that is, they would know that they are not acting independently. They would know, their Guru Maharaj would know, their mentors would know, and Krishna would know that they are not acting independently, and they know that none of their desires. So a person who's acting in the spiritual platform, they may act in the same way as the materialist would act, but outsiders cannot know so easily whether that person is acting independently or whether they feel that nothing can actually happen without Krishna fulfilling them. The sixth facet of a surrendered devotee is that one should always think of himself as the most fallen so that Krishna will take care of them. So fallen that they have no ability to take care of themselves, that Krishna has to lift them from that situation. And Krishna has his beautiful hands come and lift that person out of the terrible situation. And that is how one feels. And so that person is always so happy because of the personal touch of Krishna. The personal touch of Krishna is always there in those kind of people. So that means, like, let's say that somebody is falling down in the material world because of a very difficult situation, whether they might have not even committed an offense, but because of the way material world works, they are falling down. And the way a materialist falls and the way a devotee falls is very different, because when a devotee falls, Krishna is there to hold. Krishna is there to hold. They revive and they move forward in their material life. But the fall down of a materialist who is not a Vaishnava is a terrible fall down on a solid rock that sometimes it's very hard for them to even get up and proceed forward. The next topic of this chapter is the attitude of a surrendered devotee. Okay, so what is the attitude of a surrendered devotee? So here there is this verse which says, "My Lord, from today I am yours." So this is what a surrendered devotee means. So what is the attitude that person has? "My Lord, from today I am yours. You can protect me or kill me as you like." So you're completely under the control of Krishna. So what does this mean? This means that how can one take shelter of, so this is Bhagavatam 3.2.3. How can one take shelter of anyone but Krishna? Who else is so kind? Okay. So if you can see in the Bhagavatam, even though the 10th canto is very specifically talks about the details of Krishna, but the word Krishna appears everywhere in the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is like full and full about Krishna, and therefore it is so sweet. You can see the hands, the lotus feet of Krishna everywhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So how can anyone take shelter? Is there anybody more kind than Krishna? Even though we repeatedly are acting in a way which is unpleasant, even in spiritual life, but Krishna is so kind that every time he comes and lifts us. So what is the result of all this? Krishna is so grateful that he accepts. Can you just see the word? Krishna is so grateful. Why should Krishna be grateful? But Krishna is so grateful. That is how kind he is. Krishna is so grateful to the devotees that he accepts them. Second thing, Krishna gives them all kinds of protection. All kinds of protection. We may not be able to see and say, okay, we got protection. Oh, Krishna didn't protect me today. Krishna didn't. That is not, it's not a trade system here. Okay, it's not a trade system. Okay, we do all this, but Krishna is not protecting. Krishna is protecting. Whether we see it with our mundane vision, the materialist vision, which is completely blind to Krishna's protection, but the spiritual eyes will open, and Krishna, the material eyes don't matter. It is the spiritual eyes. So we take off the material eyes. Material eyes is always can never see. So material eyes can never see. So we take off the material eyes and we put the spiritual eyes. And then we can see that Krishna is giving the person all kinds of protection. So if a person who is about to die takes, so this is a very nice verse because every one of us is going to die. So if a person who is about to die takes full shelter of the Supreme Lord and places themselves and fully under his care, okay, he actually attains immortality. There is no rebirth. At that time, one becomes eligible to associate with the Lord and his devotees in the transcendental realm of Vaikuntha. So in the transcendental realm of Vaikuntha, one can, so that means like when you are about to die, very important to take full shelter of Krishna. So sometimes what happens is people are in coma, people are in unconscious while they're about to leave the body and so on. But for that devotee, at that moment, Krishna gives is so merciful that for all the past activities, Krishna would make them remember. Maybe the other people who are around them might think, okay, the person is unconscious and they've passed away. If they're conscious and passed away, then it is even you can see it it's tangible, even from outside. But even for those who have practiced that pure devotee, Krishna, then at the time of death, taking full shelter of the Supreme Lord and placing themselves under his full care, he can attain that immortality. No rebirth, no nothing, no material body, because the person is already liberated. The person is already liberated. The person is already liberated. So where is the question of any material realm? The person is already liberated even before dying. There is this body which others can see, but that person cannot see the body. The person has already given up the body even before death. So this you can actually see it with, there is the verse with the mother of Lord Kapila, Devahuti. So you can actually see there that she actually gave up the body way before she even actually died. Way before she died, she focused her attention entirely on her son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Lord Kapila. and she actually gave up her body. There was no body for her when she actually passed away, because she already gave up her body even before death. So the body, death, the physical, what others see as death is, okay, when the soul leaves the body, but then you're already not conscious that you even have the body. So what is, death has no meaning for such a liberated soul. So a corollary to this is an attitude of a surrendered devotee. Is a surrendered devotee also takes shelter of holy places like Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwaraka, Mayapur. So one goes to these places and takes shelter of these holy places and then recharge their battery. Very important, visiting these holy places. Now that the COVID is slowly going down as well, the last 2 years have been very hard for everyone. And hopefully, things improve for us in to be able to, take shelter of these holy places too. So what is the first activity of a devotee? So the next part of this chapter is the first activity of a devotee is hearing. Okay, so one has to be very eager to hear favorably about Krishna. Not something, somebody comes and says something about something impolite and unfavorable about Krishna. Devotee is not eager to hear all those kinds of things. So one wants to hear something favorable about Krishna, something amazing. So what are the wonderful feats that Krishna does? How is Krishna so wonderful? That is what the devotee is very eager to hear. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Harihi. Shrotavya. So one is eager to hear. Okay, okay, then next to is Kirtana. Okay, one wants to constantly chant, and then Smarana. One wants to constantly remember about Krishna. O descendant of King Bharata, okay, this is Bhagavatam 2.1.5, one who desires to be free from all miseries. So this is the verse that tells you nobody wants miseries in life. So here is a recipe how to be free from miseries. Anybody who wants to see, Bhagavatam gives the recipe for whatever problem you have. Open the Bhagavatam, you will have an answer for it. So if you want to be free from all miseries, not just some misery, all miseries are gone. So what you must do? Hear about Krishna, glorify Krishna, remember about Krishna. Okay, he's the super soul, he's the controller. Okay, Sarvatma, he's the super soul, controller, and the savior from all miseries. Krishna will save. And what is the thing? 3 things you need to do. You want to get rid of miseries. One is hear about Krishna, glorify Krishna, and remember about Krishna. So these are the 3 things that will liberate, that will, so that means that the Bhagavatam is saying, the sum and substance of the Bhagavatam is that we need to remember about Krishna, because Krishna is and that is the essence of all scriptures. Remember about Krishna in all circumstances. Anything that we do, we have to, let's look at a tree, let's look at the moon, let's look at the planets, look at whatever you see. If you are able to remember that activity, through that activity, you're able to remember Krishna, that is the essence of all scriptures. By any activity, you should be able to remember Krishna. For the outsider, from a materialist point, it'll be looking like, oh, you're looking at a beautiful tree. But then but that person alone would know in what angle he's looking at the tree. That person would know that he or she is looking at the tree from the perspective of that tree as a beautiful creation of Krishna, and then that is a spiritual vision. So outsiders cannot know to what level you have advanced, but that individual soul and their mentors, spiritual masters would know, and Krishna as a super soul, of course, would know how much you're able to remember him in different things. You look at a beautiful moon in 2 or 3 days, 2-3 days, the full moon is going to be there. And so you look at the beautiful moon and then you say, okay, there is a beautiful moon here. But then a materialist will also look at the beautiful moon. But then a Krishna conscious person also looks at the moon and appreciates it as a beautiful facet of Krishna and is able to see Krishna everywhere in that beautiful creation. Okay, and then that is remembrance of Krishna. So that means what I'm trying to say here is that the activities of a materialist and the activities of the spiritual, of the Krishna conscious person may look identical from an outsider's perspective, but in essence, they're diametrically opposite, because there is no misery in that pure devotee's life, because when they looked at that beautiful tree or moon or something, all they could do is remember Krishna. But then a materialist, when they look at a full moon or a tree or whatever, they are trying to get their own sensual pleasure, which is not the vision of the spiritualist. I'm going to my last slide for today. And with this, I'm going to end. This would be a perfect place to begin the next lecture on this same chapter. I'm not finishing this chapter because there's just too much information to put this in a 50-minute. So these are general principles. I'm not going to go too much into this because we can actually redo the slide because there are 10 things in the slide and then expansion. These are the general principles that one should accept. And what are they? Number one, to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Number two, take initiation from a spiritual master. Number three, serve the spiritual master. Okay, so you take shelter, initiate, serve. Okay, this is the proper order in which initiation happens in ISKCON these days anyway. So inquire and learn love from spiritual master. So you see the first four activities are entirely to do with spiritual master. And then follow in the footsteps of the holy persons. We already did this in the previous slides. Then number six, to be prepared to give up all kinds of enjoyment and suffer all kinds of miseries for the satisfaction of Krishna. See, would anybody say these things in material life? Material life, to give up all kinds of enjoyment in material life, people generally say, how to make our life more enjoyable. But this is not the principles with Lord Caitanya is saying. Lord Caitanya is saying to give up all kinds of enjoyment and actually pick up suffering. Okay, suffering for the satisfaction of Krishna. For the satisfaction of Krishna, all those sufferings become very happy events because Krishna is very happy with our behavior. All this requires a behavioral correction. And what is the behavioral correction that is required? The correction that is required is to accept sufferings happily for the satisfaction of Krishna. The seventh one, we just dealt with it, to live in a place where Krishna had his pastimes. Okay, we have to slowly progress towards it because otherwise we won't know the true value of the place, and then we will lose. So it's best to make just transient, temporary, quick visits to places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, and so on. Otherwise, we will, because of the conditioned nature, we may not understand the true value of those places. Number 8, be satisfied by whatever is sent by Krishna for the maintenance of the body. Okay, and we should not hanker for more than that. So whatever Krishna sent, be happy. Okay, here is our situation. Okay, that's fine. Accept it. Then number 9, there is a good reason why we are put in that situation, because that is what is good for us. We may not know it, but Krishna would know. And then observe fasting on the Ekadashi day. So from grains, as much as possible, we need to start working towards these things. It will help us remember. And on an Ekadashi day, as we do this, fasting from grains, beans, and so on. So eat more of fruits, vegetables, okay, and then it will give us moments of remembering, okay, this is a special day, we can remember about Krishna. The last thing here is show respect to devotees, cows, sacred tree like banyan tree. Very nice instruction. So you look at a banyan tree, then you remember about Krishna. Very nice. It's a beautiful tree. Remember about Krishna through it. You look at a cow, immediately you get reminded of Krishna. You look at devotees, you look at their tilak, you look at their neck beads, you remember about Krishna. Everything. So we wear the tilak, everything. Why? Because it reminds us about Krishna. So there it is, 50 minutes have passed, and I'm done with this. So I'm going to offer obeisance to everybody, and then we'll open up this for discussion. If I missed something, again, I've not completed this chapter, but this slide here would be a beautiful continuation for the next part of this chapter. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. And I again want to thank for this opportunity and to be able to present these slides today. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you so much. Very, very nice class. I especially like the example of devotee that you mentioned about how even before giving up the body, she had actually left, meaning she was absorbed like that, and she was able to get the proper understanding. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Excellent slides. And class, please share the slides with us, please, Prabhu, so that the others can also have a look at it. Thank you so much for your time and association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful class and nice slides presentation. Thank you so much for your time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Lights are very
especially
beautiful.
Thank you, Mataji. I especially wanted to thank you, Mataji, because without you asking me to come, I would not get this opportunity to share. So very kind of you, Mataji, to think of me sometimes and ask me to come here. Really appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for coming. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for beautiful class and explaining very nicely each and every point. It's very easily understandable, Prabhuji. We are so grateful to you, explaining how Krishna is protecting us, if we see or not also. We can't see from this material eyes, we can see from the spiritual eyes. That is very nice point, Prabhuji. And free from the miseries, 3 points you are describing, the medicine and everything. So beautiful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. As everybody, Mataji was saying, if you can share the slides, that would be grateful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So do you have some time for the questions, Prabhuji? If anybody, devotees, have any questions? Sure, thank you. So I request devotees, if anybody have any questions or realizations, you can please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to you, Prabhu. Wonderful session. As you already mentioned, that this chapter is a huge chapter, and I was also thinking that how will you cover in one day? But you covered it so nicely. I know it's just half done, but wonderful session, Prabhu, and the way you were explaining each and every point, it was commendable. Thank you for all the efforts that you put into this, making these wonderful presentations. It was very well presented, class, Prabhu. Thank you. And I like the way you stressed on each and every point, like tolerance, hope, and all. Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. And thank you also for giving me permission to do half the chapter. I just wanted to do the justice to the chapter as well. And so really appreciate. Thank you for your mercy.
Yes, Prabhuji, no worries. Personalities like you, if they want to, really go deep into it, then there is no harm in dividing the chapter. Thank you, Prabhu.
So are there any other devotees who would like to share their realizations, or if they have any questions, you can please go ahead. Okay, if no other devotees have any other questions, Prabhuji, with your permission, can we end the call here, Prabhuji? Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the devotees in the call. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Chaitanya teachings ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Jayananda Gauranga Das Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, once again for your valuable time. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna devotees, we can meet at 9:30 for bhajans. Whoever can join us. We are opening the call at 9:30 for bhajans and Harinam. So kindly beg all of your association to just be there at least for a few minutes.
So 9:30
CST, Mataji,
yeah.
CST.
Sorry. You please tell the CST time. Sorry.
Yeah, so 9:30 PST time and 12:30 EST time and 11:30 CST time.
Sure.
Okay, Mataji, 11:30 CST and 12:30 EST. Okay, that is good, Mataji.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we can end the call
Let's
here.
meet again in the
Thank
call.
you, everyone.